Hi guys, in the last video we built this little texture file over in Photoshop, and what we're going to do now is apply it onto our character. In Maya, what I'm going to do here is first thing I'm going to do is actually delete the history on this object. Currently you can see I've got some poly tweak UVs, a whole bunch of optimizers and stuff. And if I don't get rid of this history, this texture map could actually pretty much pull itself apart and end up not working properly. So with the object selected, I'm going to go to Edit, Delete by Type History, like that. And then pretty much we don't need the template window anymore. So I'm just going to go back to my quad viewport, and I'll just hit the space bar to go into the perspective view. Okay, so what I want to do is apply the texture we created onto this object. So I want to create a new material first of all. So right click on the object and come down to, just to make this quick, I'm going to use a blend material, which is going to give me a slightly shiny surface. So I'll just select blend. Now the attribute editor will pop open, okay, and we'll need to come across to blend 1. Now I'm going to rename this salmon shader like this so I know what it is. So as we're adding other materials to other parts of the object, I'll know which material is which. Okay, so I'll need to switch on the textured mode up here. So that's 6 on the keyboard, or you can just click this little button, or you can go to shading, hardware texturing just here. Okay. Next thing I want to do is apply the color map. So I'm going to come across to the blend common material attributes into color, and I'm going to move across over here and click on the input button and select file, and then I'll load my file in here. Now I can also call this salmon underscore color, like that, so I know that that's the texture map that's in there, without having to actually look at the file path down here. I want to switch off the quadratic filter just there, and I'll hit the folder button and select my texture, and that'll load on. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where we were going to have these seams showing up, and this is basically where the line work, you know, we didn't even attempt to kind of make the two sides of the texture match up. So what I mean by that is basically if I had this line here match exactly with this end of the line over here, so if this bit was up here a bit more, it would actually join together over here. But I didn't attempt that because this section is going to be hidden by the back of the character, so we would never see this. So it was kind of very little point in actually worrying about it. Now we would see this bit up here, okay, and up here, but it's only a very minor bit, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. We can select the object and hit 3 to smooth it out. You can kind of see how that looks, so that's not too bad. And you can see that the texture basically runs just inside the mouth, and then we get this nice black area in here. Now what we might do is actually apply different material onto the mouth in here to make it not shiny, because obviously we're getting a reflection. So we might as well do that bit now. I'm going to select the mouth. I'll select face mode, and what I want to do is select the inside of the mouth like this. So once I've got sort of those ones selected, I can hit Shift full stop and do that a few times until we've got the black sections of the mouth selected. I'll right click and hold, and I'm going to come down to assign favorite material, and I'm going to use this time a surface shader, and I'm just going to leave it black. A surface shader doesn't accept any kind of lighting information, so what that means is it's always going to be solid matte black, like that. So there'll never be any shadow, any shininess on that mouth. It'll always be a solid black color. Alright, I'm going to unisolate or de-isolate this viewport to bring the rest of the model back. There we go. And now we can start applying shaders to the rest of the character. So I'm going to grab the eyes. I'll right click on those and hit assign favorite material. I want a little bit of shininess to these eyes, so I'm going to use a blend again. I'm going to call this eye shader. And I didn't name the mouth shader earlier on. So what I can do is just grab the face piece again, come back over to surface shader and just rename that. So I'll call that mouth shader, like that. Then I can go back to the eye. I only have to select one now. Eye shader, change the color to black, and that'll give us two little shiny eyes. Now what we can do here is play with the eccentricity. So I can increase the specular roll off. That's going to give us a much kind of brighter eye. I can increase the specular color as well, crank that right up. So you can see now we get these really nice highlights. And you can also adjust the eccentricity down to make those highlights a bit sharper. So you end up with something like that. So that's pretty cool. All right, teeth. Right click. I'm going to add another blend to this. So assign favorite material, blend, teeth shader. And they're going to be pure white, like that. And once again, we can do the same kind of setting that we did with the eyes. So if we take a look at the eyes real quick, so very low eccentricity, about 0.1, maximum roll off, maximum color. Now what I should do with the reflectivity on the eyes is actually drop that down a little bit. I don't want them to reflect too much, not like mirrors. A little bit of reflection is fine, but not too much. Same with the teeth, so I'll drop the reflection down. Specular color can go right up, specular roll off can go right up, and then I'll reduce the eccentricity a little bit. So what we'll get is the same amount of shininess on the teeth as we get on the eyes. Okay, tongue. Once again, with this one I'm going to actually make that a matte color. I don't want that to be really shiny, even though that you'd expect the tongue to be wet. With this, I kind of just want it to be matte, so I'm going to go assign favorite material, Lambert, this time. Give it a name, tongue shader. There we go. And we'll give this a nice kind of deep red color. So we'll go into the red spectrum, obviously, and then what we'll do is dial the kind of red value down a little bit just to get kind of a dark shader color like that. So that's looking pretty cool already, like that. That's good. All right, now the arms and the legs, I'm actually going to separate the arms and legs because you can see at the moment they're sort of single objects. So I'll just go up to mesh, separate, and that will unsmooth them. So I'll just reselect and press 3. So the arms, the legs, and the back, I'm going to create a rice shader for them, and I want that to be a matte color as well. So I'm going to go favorite material, Lambert, again. This will be called rice shader, and we'll make kind of an off-white color, probably a similar color to this. So I'll click in here, hit the eyedropper, and the eyedropper in Maya is actually really cool. You can actually select any color off the entire interface, which is fantastic. It won't necessarily let you, actually, I'm off on my second monitor and it is actually picking up colors on folders and all sorts of things. So you might be able to actually select anything on any of your monitors. I'm going to go with kind of this same off-white color over here for the stripes. And then I'm going to dial it up a little bit because it's kind of in the reddy orange spectrum. I want it to be more in the closer to the white spectrum. So I'm going to go HSV here, and I'm going to dial the saturation down a bit to make it a bit more white, like that. Okay. So the hat's where it gets a little bit interesting because most of it's one piece, and then we've got the little kind of buckle bits, the little stamps and the badge. So the top section is going to be white, and that's going to be pure white. So I'm going to start off with those. I'm going to hit face mode, select the 4 polygons on the top, hit shift full stop, and just keep tapping that until I get down to the hat band, down to the here, like that. And I'm going to create a new material. That's going to be a Lambert again, and this is going to be called hat white. hat white shader, and the color on that's going to be pure white. Let's crank that right up. Okay. Now I'm going to hold down Shift and drag a box across that object. Okay, and I'm then going to apply another shader called Hat Black. So I'm going to right click and I'll select Assign Favorite Material. I'm going to use another Lambert, and this is going to be called Hat Black Shader. And that's going to get dragged all the way down, like that. Now technically, these hats often have a shiny brim. So this bit would be matte, like a fabric, and then the bit that sticks out the peak, or the brim, would be shiny. This one's got a shiny edge on it, but the rest of it's actually pretty matte. So you could do the same thing here if you wanted. I'm going to add a shiny brim to this, just so it kind of stands out from the rest of the hat. So I'm just going to basically select these sections through here, like that, and maybe those bits there as well. I'll right click and hold, select favorite material, and this time I'm going to go with a blend. Color is going to be black, and I'll use the same settings as I had on the eyes, just so it matches. So roughly about 0.1, maximum specular roll off, maximum specular color, and just a little bit of reflection. So I get kind of a shiny bit here. All right. The other sections, so the badge bits, right? I'm going to double click on here, shift double click here, and shift double click here, and that'll just select those shells. And what we'll do is apply another material. I'm going to do a matte material again, so Lambert, and this is going to be called Hat Badge Shader. Okay, just hit enter, and I want this to be like a golden yellow color. It's going to kind of work well with the orange on the sushi. This is definitely bugged, I think. It's never done that before, so I'm just going to dial this up. Okay, so we get this nice golden color, and that's going to kind of complement the orange on the the sushi. So there we go, little sushi character. Now, if you want, what you could do is actually create, you know, the like incidence angle based shaders. You can check out that that incidence angle video, the sampler info node video, I should say, and you can apply that type of texture onto here, not just the tongue, but obviously other parts of the character, to get a slightly different finish. That would work okay, but this is really sort of just the kind of the basic finish that you can have on your characters. I'll probably fix this up. I've got a double edge in here, but for now that'll do. So, for example, with the other thing you could do is actually set this up as a an ambient occlusion type material. So rather than just having the material color set like this, what we can do is sort of have a darkened kind of crease in here. So where the color is, if you just click on that, you can see that this color is actually stored just here. If we click on the input, we can come across to Mental Ray, down to Textures, and select the MIB Ambient Occlusion node just there. We can set the samples to maybe 32 or 64. 32 is probably going to work okay. Change the bright value just here to that red color, like that, and maybe set the max distance to 1 as well. Now you will probably find that the tongue will go black because we're using an ambient occlusion node, and that's on viewport 2.0, and also on the legacy view will actually ignore it. You can see there that it just goes back to normal. Okay, but your viewport by default will be set to 2.0. Okay. So basically what that ambient occlusion node will do, if I do a quick render of this, I'm just going to kind of position the character there. There's no lighting or anything in this scene, but if I open up the render window and use mental ray, I'll just run off a quick render, and we might be able to see the result now. Now, getting in, the background images in there, so I'll need to switch those off. I'll just grab those and put them in a new layer. Fingers crossed that'll stop them from rendering. Yep, there we go. All right. Now, the ambient occlusion node's not having a massive effect. Okay, it is a little bit, but not too much. Let's pop back into the attributes for it. Okay, and that can be sometimes because of this max distance. Depending on how big the character is, this character is very big compared to the grid. Having a max distance of 1 can actually reduce the effect that you get. So maybe if I switch it back to 0, we might be able to see a little bit more of that effect. What I'm expecting is a darker line through the middle of the tongue in here. You can see it there occurring. The back of the tongue gets a bit darker with that value reduced. If we did take the tongue and if we pushed these edges together like this, we would see more of an effect. Let me just readjust the camera position. I'm just cycling through the cameras using the square brackets here. Just trying to get it back to where it was there. So I'll just store that and re-render it. Yeah, so you can see there I now get this darker line. So basically the way the ambient occlusion works is it looks for crevices and kind of joins in your object, and it adds the dark color from that shader. So it'll add whatever this color is into all the seams and gaps in your object. So the closer these two edges push together, the tighter that gap gets in the middle of the tongue, and the darker the color gets in there. So if I kind of widen it a little bit, you can see it goes back to being kind of bright. Push it back together a tad, and it'll become a bit darker. So it's getting a little darker in there. Push it together a bit more. I'll just do a region render on this. Go a bit quicker. You can see there it gets darker again. Okay. The other thing I can see is that I'm getting getting a massive amount of reflection on the salmon section here, and that's because I didn't adjust it down. So salmon shader, you can see that the reflectivity is still set to 5. I didn't really change any of these settings at all, so I'm going to drop the reflectivity sort of all the way down. And this is sort of the point where I can start to kind of do test renders on the actual salmon itself. So what I can do here is use the IPR, just drag a box around the salmon, and it'll basically render it. And then I can adjust settings over here, and it will keep re-rendering. I'm kind of okay with the actual amount of specularity, like this highlight that I'm getting here. I don't want to make it too big because it'll kind of wash it out, and I don't want to make it too small because it'll look a bit shiny. So roughly where it was before, which is about 0.3, I think was okay. I don't necessarily want to make it brighter either because that'll wash it out a little bit. Okay, so something like that, like a slight variance like that. The specular color, maybe I can change that maybe to a a yellow. That'll kind of give me a richer highlight on the salmon. Or I could even push it more into an actual, like the salmon color. So that's going to be more of that orange color, like that. And you can see there, it then gives me a sort of a more golden highlight on the character. Now, for example, if I wanted to change the tongue and actually make that shiny, I can select the tongue, go to the tongue shader and change the type up here to a blend, for example. All right, and that'll give me the shiny values like that, so I get a bit of a highlight on the tongue. If the material you had originally has some of the same channels, then any connections on similar channels will remain. So you can see here my ambient occlusion has remained connected. If there was no color channel on the blend at all, it would disconnect that. So let's just adjust this for a second. So you can see now I'm getting that shininess on the tongue down here. And I don't want reflection on the tongue at all. So I'll turn the reflection off completely. And then what you can do obviously is adjust the eccentricities and so on. So I might kind of have like quite a large highlight on that, and I don't want it to be too bright, so I might actually dial down the specular roll off, but make the actual highlight a bit bigger. So you can kind of adjust that and balance it how you see fit. So you can have like a very shiny tongue, or something like that. Okay. So I'll just switch off the render view IPR render just there. And I'll just pull the character back like that. Do a quick background. Yeah, background is black. So I'm just going to grab the camera button just here, and I'll just scroll this down and change the environment to sort of more of a mid-grey color. And this is really just, I'm just going to run this quick render just so you can kind of see what the character looks like at the moment. So there's no lighting or anything in the scene. But you can see that we get this nice little texture on the character like that. So that's basically how you can kind of create and apply texture images onto organic characters like this one. All right, we'll finish this video here, and I will see you next time.